Students and colleagues, we have all gathered for the first Prabha Ramadhar Singh Distinguished Lecture Series in Psychology. Ramadhar Singh joined the Department of HSS IIT Kanpur as an Assistant Professor of Psychology in 1973 and later moved to IIM Ahmedabad as a professor in 1979. During his short tenure at IIT Kanpur, he led the doctoral program, guided 3 doctoral students and taught courses to undergrad engineering students. His publications in international journals created a new standard of excellence in research. Over an illustrious 54-year career, Ramadhar Singh also served at the Patna University, IIM Ahmedabad, National University of Singapore, IIM Bangalore. He has been a distinguished university professor at Ahmedabad University since July 2016. In recognition of his exceptional and outstanding contribution to psychological sciences, he was elected Fellow of the British Psychological Society in 1992, American Psychological Association in 1993, and Association for Psychological Sciences in 1993. He was also elected Fellow of Singapore Psychological Society in 1993, Society for Personality and Social Psychology again in 1993, and the National Academy of Psychology, India in 2008. The Association for Psychological Science, Washington, D.C., USA, maintains a website of influential psychologists, faces and minds of psychological science. As of today, only Ramadhar Singh from India is included among them. The Indian Institute of Management, Indore, bestowed its first ever Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Research to him in 2021. Ramadhar Singh has publicly stated that his career might not have unfolded in such a gratifying way had he not started his postdoctoral career at IIT Kanpur. He humbly acknowledges that most of his experimental studies at the levels of individual, group and organization as well as society were possible because of love and support of his wife Prabha Singh, herself a developmental psychologist. Findings from her experimental research with children were published in Child Development, Cognitive Development, Journal of Social Psychology, to mention a few. They have also been cited in psychological literature. By hosting the Prabha and Ramadhar Singh Distinguished Lecture Series in Psychology, the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Kanpur, celebrates their sustained contribution to the advancement of psychology and management as a science in Asia. So, I am glad to share with you that this is the first ever Distinguished Lecture Series that we have in psychology in this department. And now I will request Professor Shikha Dixit to introduce the speaker for this very session.
So, thank you, Professor Bhushan, for introducing the lecture series that has been started. And we are very pleased to host this lecture, and we have a very illustrious speaker with us today, Dr. Krishna Savani. He is the Professor of Management at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Earlier, he was Provost's Chair in Business, Associate Professor of Leadership, Management and Organization, Associate Professor of Psychology by courtesy, and Director of the Culture Science Institute at Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. His cross-cultural comparative research focuses on the basic psychological processes underlying one's day-to-day choices, decision-making, attitudes, and behaviors. He has extensively published in many reputed international journals, such as Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, Psychological Science, Journal of Applied Psychology, Organizational Behavior and Human Decision Processes, Perspectives on Psychological Science, and the Journal of Experimental Psychology General. His research has been featured in numerous media outlets, including Forbes, Smart Money, Scientific American, Boston Globe, and Huffington Post. Dr. Savani has been recognized as a 2015 Rising Star by the Association for Psychological Science and received the 2016 Nanyang Assistant Professorship Award in Nanyang Business School. He has also been featured in the Poets and Quants Best 40 Under 40 Professors and Singapore Business Review's 2016 list of 18 influential business professors aged 40 and under. He is currently an associate editor at the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, Attitudes and Social Cognition section. Today, he will speak to us on counteracting hiring discrimination, insights from decision biases, mindsets, and machine learning. So, over to you, Dr. Savani.
Thank you, Professor Bhushan and Professor Dikshit, for inviting me here. I'm really happy to Ramadhar ji for hosting this lecture series. So, actually, so I'll talk a little bit about my program of research on the choice mindset, which actually started very long ago. I think the first experiment I ran as my PhD, that's what inaugurated this whole idea. And kind of I'm still working on it like 12 years, no, when did I start my PhD in 2012? So 17 years, 2005, so 17 years later. So by the way, just please feel free to ask questions, and give comments. Let's make this, more interactive if possible. No need to leave your thoughts to the very end of the talk. So this work was conducted with a number of current and former students and postdocs. So, like when I first went to the US in 2001 for college, I was just struck by the amount of choices available everywhere. And I think the biggest shock was when I went to a store, right, to buy a Subway sandwich. Then they first said, what size? I'm like, okay, small or large. I'm like, okay, small. I'm like, yeah. Then they say, okay, what bread? Okay, then there are 4 choices of bread. Then like, what cheese? They're like 4 types of cheese. Then they were like, okay, which meat? I'm like, oh no, none of that. Then like, okay, do you want tomatoes? Do you want cucumbers? Do you want olives? And this went on for like around 10 different things. At some point I was like, just put whatever you want. And the person looks at me like, are you crazy? Do you want olives or not? Give me an answer. And that kind of really struck me like, wow, in this culture, people are supposed to, have clear preferences. They're supposed to make choices very quickly. You're supposed to know right away what type of bread, what type of cheese you want, and whether you want 20 different ingredients on your sandwich or not. And then I was like, okay, so this may be something to think about. And then over some time there, then I realized kind of, like I was basically forced with a lot of options. But mentally, right, I didn't have a choice schema. I didn't have the mental ingredients needed to very quickly and efficiently make all of the choices that the culture was just throwing at me, one after another. And that made me think a little bit, how is choice conceptualized in the literature? It's a major topic of research in, say, the whole topic of judgment and decision making, right? That whole area of psychology essentially studies how do people make choices. Then there is, of course, consumer behavior on the marketing side, which again studies how people make choices. Within social psychology, there have been 30 years of research on what happens, right, if you give people like only a few options or you give them lots of options. Or for your research project, here are like 2 different areas of research or like 6 different areas of research. And they find that you give people more choices, they're more motivated, they work harder, they're like happier, and so on. And so essentially all of this work says choice is something objective. You have like, 2 types of biscuits, or no, maybe more, like 3 types of biscuits available to choose now. So you have a choice. But then I thought, like, from my personal experience, it's kind of like not enough. Something is off, right? That I think in addition to having options, you also need, you need to be in a state of mind where you can process the choice, right? like a kind of, you can call it like in the old language, like, you need a mental schema to make choices, or I could even call it like a lens through which you are processing the choices that are coming to you. And when I went to the US, I kind of didn't have a lens of choice. And that's why I was having a lot of difficulty kind of engaging in with American culture, right? And now according to this view, basically then choice is not just an objective state of the world. Like Subway is presenting me with 20 choices, but I'm like kind of, my choice was just sandwich or no sandwich, right? It wasn't like, kaun sa bread, kaun sa cheese, kaun si sabziyan. So then I was like, okay, choice is also in part about subjective perceptions and not just about the objective state of the world. So and this kind of later on I realized actually like it's a at least in everyday life in the US, the idea of choice is routinely invoked to kind of argue for policies, to push, to convince people as a persuasive tool. So for example, the abortion debate in America is framed in terms of choice. Also like the public schools debate. So should children mostly go to public schools? Should they be allowed to use government funds to send their children to private schools? Healthcare debate. So like most developed countries have universal healthcare. America doesn't. And the way they are justifying lack of universal healthcare is by saying, no, people should have a choice which doctor, which hospital, which insurance they sign up for. Even guns, right? You see, keep hearing about shootings in America like every week, right? And why is that still happening? Nowhere else does it happen. Because I have the right, I can choose to have a gun and carry around with me in a classroom if I want to. So actually, state of Texas had the government declared universities, public universities cannot prohibit students from carrying guns in the classroom. It's their free choice. Right? So choice is taken to an extreme level. And here we are not talking about real options, right? We're just talking choice as a frame, as a lens of shaping public policy discourse. So I was like, okay, how do we experimentally assess, right? Is choice just about the objective options available? Or is it also about your like frame of mind that you are in? So this is the experiment I told you was like in 2005. And I kind of discussed it with my advisor. She said like, yeah, there's no way this would work, right? I said, we have people come in the lab. We have them make some choices. Then we ask them like, what are all the choices you made? She's like, of course everyone will tell all the choices you made. Choice is something objective. I'm like, nah, we'll get a difference. And she was like, nah, I don't support. Then what I did is I applied for some small student research grant. Then I got it. I'm like, okay, abhi mera khud ka paisa hai. I'm going to test it out. So what I did is I got booked a lab room with empty cubicles. So normally say there are 4 or 5 cubicles, then you get like 4 or 5 participants at a time. But I wanted students to make a choice. I only booked 1 participant at a time. So they come in, then as they walk in, I say, oh, please have a seat. So then students have to choose where to sit. Then they have to sign the consent form, and normally we just put like 1 pen on the table. Now here I put 4 pens on the table. So they had to choose a pen to sign the form. Now we are required to give students 2 consent forms. One they take home with themselves for their records, and one they sign and give us. Now normally it's everything on white paper, so there's no choice. Now here I printed them on different colored paper, right? Blue, green, yellow, red. So now theoretically they could choose which color to sign, which color to take home. And then finally you put some chocolate on the table. So they could choose whether to eat the chocolate, when to eat the chocolate, whether to take it home with them, whether to just leave it there, and so on. Then then I gave them some filler tasks surveys to complete on the computer. And after that I asked them, please list all the choices that you made since coming in the lab. So you think like everyone should list all 4 of these, right? Everyone chose a cubicle, everyone chose consent form. And what do I say? Then I, capitalize on my personal experience. Key idea was that are Indians less likely to see these actions as choices? Now, like a big problem with cross-cultural studies of this sort is, right, what if the lab room structure was different, right? You can't have exactly identical lab room in India and in US and IIT Kanpur, right? So what I think, okay, I was like, okay, let me try to get international, Indians was like not enough, as it's all South Asian, so, some Pakistani, some Nepali people, and I'm like, okay, chalo, I advertised on the international student list, I begged everyone, please come do my survey, you will get $5 also, and managed to get enough people. And now, here are the results, the proportion of people seeing each of these actions as a choice. So, okay, like about a little over 80% of Americans said, yeah, I chose which cubicle to sit in. Only 30% of South Asians said, I chose which cubicle to sit in. Consent forms, similar, little less, 60% of Americans, around 40% of South Asians. Pens, like even bigger difference. 70% of Americans, just 25% of South Asians said, I would choose which pen. Chocolates, there was less of a difference, about similar. So what, at least, so this study kind of, I think, one of the first in the field to show that choice is not just about the objective options available, that even with the same objective, everyone is literally this physical world is the same, but we see like a lot of cultural difference in people's perceptions of choice. But then we also see individual difference, like even the Americans, it's like none of the bars are 100%, right? Even among Americans there is variation, but even among South Asians, nobody is zero, right? So even within a culture, there's quite a lot of variation in which items people see as a choice and which they don't. So this cross-cultural study highlighted that maybe perceptions of choice is a psychological variable. It is not a constant. The assumption in the field was perception of choice is a constant. What matters is objective options. And then I was like, okay, so this is interesting. So if perceptions of choice is is a variable, one possibility is it's kind of just random, right? I sometimes, maybe I like biscuits very much, I see biscuits as a choice. I don't like juice, so I don't see juice as a choice. It's kind of like, it's just basically the variation that we see is all entirely random. An alternate possibility is that the variation is systematic. Some people have a choice mindset, right? So if I have a choice mindset, I'm more aware of all the choices that are available to me right now. Other people don't have a choice mindset. Even if they're presented with lots of options, they don't see it as a choice. Also could be more that this would be more of like, say, a stable individual difference. Otherwise, it could be more of a state. Sometimes we are in a state of mind where we are more aware of the choices available. Other times we are in a state of mind where we are kind of, not really realizing the choices that are present to us. So now, if this variation is systematic, right, if there's something like a choice mindset, in later work, then we ended up explicitly defining it. It's just essentially like a lens that you see your own and others' actions through a lens of choice. And so, if such a mindset exists, then as an experimental social psychologist, we should be able to manipulate it. Like, we put people in a choice mindset, and then we can see what are the effects on their behavior and decision making. So this is kind of this. So essentially the cross-cultural idea kind of set up the stage for the subsequent program of research. And then when we was thinking about, right, what might be some of the effects of thinking about your actions in a choice through choices or being in a choice mindset. And one idea was that, well, clearly, like very basic, right? You're more aware of all the options available. Like, I don't have a choice mindset, I say, oh, कुछ biscuit hai, right? If I'm in a choice mindset, well, नहीं, 3 अलग तरीके के biscuit hai. Right? So I'm more aware के options क्या है. Now, if you're aware of your options, maybe you also evaluate your options more critically. So you think about it, like, खाना चाहिए कि नहीं खाना चाहिए, right? भूख लगी है, नहीं लगी है, पसंद आता है, नहीं पसंद आता है, right? So you just don't automatically make a decision, oh, biscuit है, मुंह में डाल लो, right? You think about it a little bit. And if that's the case, then maybe also might help people exert like self-control and self-regulation. if you're more aware of your options and you're thinking about it more critically, does it fit with my goals right now, right? Does it fit with my health goals right now, for example? So maybe I'm trying to gain weight, right? Then I should eat more biscuits. If I'm trying to lose weight, then I try to avoid the biscuits. So in this kind of one set of research, I was trying to look at does a choice mindset, can it help people reduce decision-making biases? My idea was that many decision-making biases occur because people are not fully considering all the options they have available. So consider the anchoring bias. Have you all heard of it? Right, like so kind of in decision-making, so you have to estimate some number, and if another number just happens to be salient, even kind of randomly, then people's judgments, estimates are influenced by the randomly salient number. And in this context, I looked at it in the case of negotiations. So in negotiations, when someone makes a first offer, then that serves as an anchor. Then the final negotiation price ends up close to whatever first offer people have offered. So my idea was that if you're in a choice mindset, and you are considering your options available in a more thorough manner, then you kind of realize, well, yeah, someone said 1,000 रुपये का first offer किया, तो maybe I don't need to respond 900, right? Maybe I can respond 500, maybe I can respond 200, right? अगर वो बहुत overclaim कर रहा है market में, so then in that case, people might end up making more aggressive counter offers, and so they show a weaker anchoring bias. So to test it out, we kind of got nearly 400 people, and we told them, say, chalo, imagine you moved into a new apartment, you want to do some decoration, you decided to go buy some paintings, you went to a street fair where people are selling paintings, and you know from experience that there is room to negotiate on like say like in a street market, right? You're not going to like some hi-fi gallery to buy paintings. Then got some paintings from the internet, gave them like the quoted price. So this is what the painter is asking for. Later on, then we asked them, okay, if you wanted to buy this painting, how much would you offer? And then in the choice, so in the neutral condition, that bold part was not there. In the choice condition, we just told them, oh, you can choose to offer any amount you want. It's your choice. Now, of course, clearly it's your choice. You're asking people like, how much do you want to, what would you offer for this painting? So it's clearly a choice. But what I think what this is doing, just that line, right? Just telling people you can choose, it's your choice. It's kind of just forcing people to adopt a choice mindset, right? They might or might not perceive it as a choice, but we're just telling them, hey, reminding you, it's your choice. So just one line, huh? And this bias is, I think, one of the most replicable biases. Been around from like, I think 1979 was the first paper in Science when this was discovered. Now here is the average of the counter offer that participants responded. So the average first offer was $150, average counter offer was $100. But just telling people it's your choice reduced it to about $80. Just one line of instructions. And kind of basically people, decision-making researchers are shocked because they're like, wow, this is such a powerful bias, and this choice mindset can help reduce it. So kind of we replicated this finding with like a few other studies with anchoring bias. We also looked at other biases, like say the sunk cost bias. We've already put in some money in a project, it's going bad. Best idea is stop, move on to something else. People keep putting more good money after bad or more effort after bad. Again, same thing, telling people it's your choice whether to continue the project or move on to something else. Then people are like, oh yeah, actually good point, let me move on to something else. So people end up making better decisions when they're in a choice mindset. So any questions about this study? Okay.
Don't you think it's more of an incremental view about mindset? Like the very famous one with the growth mindset.
Carol Dweck. Yeah, So actually, I've worked with Carol Dweck. She's one of my advisors. So actually, I've looked at the relationship between choice mindset and the growth mindset. no correlation actually.
Seems that it would be like there would be high correlation between choice
Yeah.
mindset and growth mindset.
So not really. So the growth mindset is about, do you think you can improve is your intelligence fixed or can it be changed? Right? For example, like your different abilities. Whereas the choice mindset says nothing about any abilities. Right? There's no, for growth mindset, you must have like some ability or morality or character trait as the reference point. Whereas the choice mindset is very general. There's nothing to be improved. Right? There's no fixing. It's like, oh, you have a choice. It's just kind of like just a subtle shift in your.
So is there any way like you try to establish the discriminant validity between the two?
Yeah, but there's zero correlation, right? So clearly, yeah, zero correlation. And even I've tried experimental manipulation. So manipulate choice mindset, measure growth mindset, no effect. Manipulate growth mindset, measure choice mindset, no effect. Yeah, so no relationship here.
So in terms of like choice mindset and when you're looking at cross-country, the fact that the physical environment is the same, that we get everything similar, but the previous exposure to different choices like might be limited. Like in US, people might have more exposure to choices, so would that also influence the choice mindset?
Oh yeah. That is the idea. That's that kind of, the more choices you make in your everyday life, the more likely you might end up in a choice mindset, have a chronic choice mindset, right? Or you have a more elaborate choice mindset that is more easily I can activate it with experiments, right?
So if I'm of a growth mindset, I might also look for more and more choices around me.
I don't find
That's my rationale. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why I
yeah,
think
but-
that there would be a high correlation or maybe moderate correlation. between the
Yeah.
two.
So see, I think the growth mindset is like, can you improve your research capacity? Right?
No, it can be
Then
in
what
any
you do is
domain.
maybe you put in more effort and you read more papers, right? You kind of come up with more research ideas. So yeah, you're kind of looking for options, but it's only within the research domain. So maybe if I had a choice mindset question for that relevant domain, then maybe there's a correlation. But my general conceptualization is kind of like a domain general phenomenon, right? You're just more overall aware of your choices or not. And so at least domain general choice mindset is unrelated to domain specific growth mindset. But it's possible like a domain specific growth mindset is related to domain specific choice mindset. But just I haven't worked on that yet, but that might be interesting thing to follow up on. Yeah, but yeah, like going to your point, right? Yeah, this is like a, so actually see, when I do these experiments in India, actually I have a hard time manipulating a choice mindset. I don't get very good results. Singapore, I get a lot of good results because there it's like a very consumer culture. So Singapore, in some domains, you have no choice at all. But in food and shopping is like massive amounts of choice. Right? So I think just even Singaporeans have enough of a choice mindset that it's easy to manipulate them and we kind of get effects. In India, like these studies are quite hard, but maybe now, like 10 years ago I tried, they were kind of quite hard to get effects. But maybe now people do have elaborate choice mindsets. But like earlier times it was kind of tough. So yeah, cultural experience is kind of a key determinant.
Maybe that could be socioeconomic status specifically.
Yeah, probably. But it was surprising, because earlier I did surveys in at Mumbai in the St. Xavier's College, which is kind of like has a very elite, snooty crowd, right? Koi Hindi mein nahi bolta hai. Like everyone acts, they're like, oh, super upper class. I still don't get the same effects of the choice. So that was actually surprising. So actually the social class difference in India was very minimal. So Mumbai St. Xavier's College versus like a kind of like a government college, effects are mostly the same, which was actually quite surprising because in US actually there are big differences by social class. But again, that was a while ago. I haven't done those studies recently. Would be interesting because it's like, we're having big economic changes and cultural changes, so would be exciting to see what is the situation right now.
When you are taken Indian Americans, so did you consider generation like
Oh, I think so. Not Indian Americans. These were international students, so they just come like me, grew up in India or Nepal or Bangladesh. Yeah. So yeah, Indian Americans I think would probably be more like Americans because they grew up whole lifetime making a lot of choices. And even kind of I have some cousins living in Chicago and I was just visiting them, and basically their children are all teenagers and the idea of choice is so salient. I will choose which college I want to go to. You can't tell me. I will choose what's with like one guy has kind of broken his spine, right? So clearly shouldn't be doing sports right now after you've just broken your spine. You can't tell me what to do and what not to do. It's my choice whether to play sports, like despite kind of my spinal condition, right? And I was like shocking, like if anyone in India, there's like no chance any of this would fly. But the idea of choice is so salient, and it's kind of, I think, the biggest problem in the generational gap. If the parents grew up here, they were like, this is the path to take, and the children are like, shut up. And I kind of just reinforce that kind of the idea of choice is, I think, like a big source of cultural differences, but pretty much unexamined. Right? It's not like one of those traditional cultural values. Choice won't come up anywhere there. Okay, so then I was thinking about this, like, what might be some other ways in which this choice mindset might have like a kind of effects in your everyday personal life, everyday decision making. And I got this idea. So when I took my first job at the National University of Singapore, where Ramadhar ji was also there at the time. And when the department had a cult, kind of all the junior faculty would kind of get together for lunch nearly every day. And so around 12 o'clock, someone comes together, then they knock on everyone's door. Oh, hey, you want to go for lunch? Now, if you're like a morning person, you've woken up at 6, you've had your breakfast at 8, you're in office by 8:30, then yeah, you're ready for lunch by noon, right? Now, I'm not a morning person. I just barely got up between 8 and 9. Then I replied to emails, had some chai, did some exercise. Then by the time I had breakfast was already like, maybe 10:30. Then I kind of walked into office at 11. By noon, I'm just getting into the middle of work. And then someone says, oh, want to go for lunch? And then I'm like, okay, sure, I go for lunch with them. Then there's a lot of talking over lunch. And, in Singapore, then all these basically expats are like, they're like, no, should eat with chopsticks. Then they're not very good. Then they take very slow, like take a full hour to eat with chopsticks. Within 1-1.15 baje office pahuncho, and then I'm like already kind of sleepy, right? Because I'm tired of all the big lunch and the long conversation. And then I'm kind of not getting anything done. Then this happened for a few weeks. I'm like, this is too much, right? I'm kind of really, whole month has gone by, I've got nothing done. I can't continue like this. Then I was like, you know what? It's my choice whether to go to lunch with these people or not. Right? Next day someone comes, I'm like, sorry, I'm in the middle of a paper, right? I'm like, not now. Then I go for lunch at 2 o'clock at my time when I'm hungry. And then, but sometimes they're like, sometimes, I want to actually like learn what's happening in the department or kind of find out some information about a grant. In those cases, or if I'm just unproductive, right, if my brain is not working, then better go lunch and have a break, and, maybe it might reset. So I'm like, okay, I make a choice when to go for lunch, when not to go for lunch. I don't go with by default, right? Someone knocks on the door and I say, yes, no, I don't do that anymore. And then I thought, so then I did this for some time, and then said, okay, let's actually test it out, right? And this was essentially a problem of time management. Because, like all of us are short of time. We have like tons of work to do. But what happens is we kind of go with the flow. Someone says, oh, ye karna, we're like, okay, chalo, without really thinking, right? Does it fit with my goals right now, what I need to achieve? So the idea was that if you're in a choice mindset, then maybe you're more mindful of your goals, right? What I really want to do. Do I want to go lunch with these colleagues, or do I want to actually finish my paper? And if that's the case, then you can end up making better time management decisions. So I tested this out. I thought, with one shot study, I thought might not work, right? So let's see if we can do like a more longitudinal field experiment. So I got 100 students, and I ran like a 5-week daily diary survey with them. So actually wasn't a diary, it was more like online survey. So basically every morning, they get an email reminder where they have to like click on a link which takes them to a survey. So in the control condition, I say, okay, chalo, tell me, what will you do today? And I give them 4 time slots, right? Morning, afternoon, evening, night. And the students, and there are like 3 like blank spaces, so they wrote something, right? Like, I'll do my reading for my course, I'll go to the gym. Now in the kind of choice mindset condition, or here I call it the decision condition, it was just slightly different wording. Instead of how will you spend your time today, It was, how have you decided to spend your time today? And then I told them, write your responses by starting with, I have decided to X, Y, Z. Okay? And what they wrote was nearly the same, right? Or like normal student stuff. Just in one condition, I kind of just forced them to view their actions as decisions, right? Like studying for the class, they're saying it's a decision. That's about it. Then the next day, I said, okay, so think back how you spent your time yesterday. How much time did you spend on important things? How much regret do you have about how you spent your time? And then, how much time did you waste? Like a few other questions. And then I said, okay, now these are the things you said you will do yesterday, right? Like do the reading for the course, go to the gym. How many have you actually finished? Right? Just give a check mark. And then re-implemented the experimental manipulation. So now, okay, now forget about yesterday, now think about today. What will you do today? What have you decided to do today in the other condition? That's it. And then this thing went on for like 5 weeks. So here are the results. So this is kind of the main dependent variable, which is of the tasks you said you will finish yesterday, how many have you actually done? And control condition, like kind of averages are between 60 and 70, slightly increasing. So as they go through the semester, they're kind of realizing, I guess, these are, I need to study and get my work done as I'm approaching exam. So they're more likely to finish what they planned. But when they say, I've decided to do this, it's basically like a 10% bump. They're 10% more likely to actually do it. And it's actually, when you think about it, right, when you say, I've decided to do it, it's kind of like more of a commitment, like, yeah, no, this is, I'm making a claim versus like, yeah, I will do it today, right? There's kind of more of uncertainty. When I asked how much time did you spend on important things yesterday, actually in the control condition, there's a decline over the course of the semester. So I'm guessing they're getting more busy and busy over time. So whatever important things that they had in their mind, they're like, oh, I'm not getting time for it. I'm getting distracted by all of these other stuff that's coming my way. But in the decision condition, this decline is arrested. They're kind of more stable. And ask how much regret did you feel about how you spent your time? Control condition, there is increasing regret as they go through the semester. Decision condition, there's a decline, there's an opposite trend. They're less and less regretful about how they spend their time. And again, if you look at the origin, there's actually not much of a difference at time one. So essentially the difference accumulates over time. So as you are chronically in a choice mindset, right? Doing this research for 15 years, I'm chronically in a choice mindset. So I'm like, I don't do anything by default or go with the flow, right? I'm just always thinking okay, does it make sense or not? What's the best course of action given the constraints and the goals that I have right now, right? And so what this manipulation was doing, every day you are thinking, I have decided to do this, people are kind of getting in a chronic choice mindset. And so we see substantial differences in the end of the 5 weeks. So this was all well and good, right? But it's all self-report measures. All we have, people are saying I finished my task, or they're saying I spend more time on important stuff. But how do we know that it actually changed people's behavior? So for this, then we did a lab experiment. So we got again Singaporeans in the lab. Control condition was about yesterday, what did you do yesterday versus what decisions did you make yesterday. So the idea is that thinking about your past decisions kind of puts you in a choice mindset or decision mindset right now, right? Because that's what you've been thinking about for the past 5 minutes. And then we say, okay, so in this, the task about recalling every past actions is over. Now you're going to do a GRE reading comprehension test. Here are some passage, very long passage on the screen. You can scroll up and down. But we realized, you might be done reading within 20 minutes and you might, have some free time. So in which case you can browse the internet. So what we did was just below the passage, there was a button which said take a break. So if students clicked on that button, take a break, it kind of, the passage went away and a web browser opened. And then they could do whatever on the web browser that they wanted. And then below the web browser, there's another button, return to passage. If they click on that, then flip back, and they're back to the passage. And they can flip back and forth as often as they wanted within 20 minutes. And then the program tracked how much time they spent reading the passage. And then after 20 minutes, we gave them 10 multiple choice questions based on the passage. And actually, kind of Singaporeans, right? If you don't pay them, they don't do tasks seriously. So initial version we just ran normally, no effect, right? Then this time we said you'll get $1 for every question correct, right? So they're incentivized to do the task seriously. See, here is a key outcome. How much time did they spend taking a break? Okay, so the is kind of my decimals are going away. So it wasn't 7. It's kind of rounding it, but we do find that just telling people, those who recall their past decisions actually said that they actually spend less time taking a break, more time reading the passage. And what we find is, it's kind of, this is the effect here. The choice mindset, about 2 minutes they spend less taking a break. And the longer time you spend taking a break, the lower your performance on the GRE test. So we get a overall positive effect of the choice mindset on final performance through reduced break time. So essentially this, we do see effects on behavior, not just on self-report measures. Right? So I think you all are making decisions about how to spend your time, and so you should be in a choice mindset, right? What's best to achieve my goals right now? Let me just see how much time we have left. So already only 10. Is it 12 o'clock, right?
Just time for you.
No, I have like a lot of slides, so I can stop anytime. Some more time? Okay. Okay.
Then we will take a question.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so this was good. Kind of, we see like many positive effects of choice mindset. You have less decision-making biases. You're more likely to act consistent with your goals. But like thing is, at least in the discourse of choice, it often also has many negative consequences. Like in India, in basically the Western world and India, people don't like wearing masks. COVID is going on, nobody's wearing masks properly. In America, there are protests. People are saying, it's my choice whether to wear a mask. And, COVID had a big toll. South Asia, Middle East, North America, Europe, a lot of people died. In East Asia, wearing a mask is not a choice. Like it or not, everyone wears a mask. So Singapore, Japan, Korea, China, hardly any COVID deaths. It's like a fraction of the kind of case rates and death rates in India and the Western world, right? Same with vaccines. America has the world's best vaccines. 1/3 of Americans don't want to take the vaccines. They think it's my choice. Like पूरी दुनिया में लोग तरस जाएंगे आपकी vaccines के लिए और आप लोग बोल रहे हो नहीं मेरा choice है मेरे को नहीं चाहिए. Right, so it's really this idea of choice has a lot of negative consequences for society, right? It's not just purely positive. I think key idea is that if you're in a choice mindset and you're focused on your own goals, on your own preferences, what do I want? Do I want to wear a mask or not? Right? Kind of not thinking about others. What's best to to stop the pandemic right now, right? Just wear the damn mask. But no. Right, so basically, essentially, the idea was that maybe the idea of choice reduces social responsibility because people are focused on themselves. Also, maybe reduces cooperation with others because again, you're focused on your individual benefits. So now, first, I wanted to test the psychological mechanism, right? The psychological mechanism is idea of choice leads to increased self-focus. But if we ran a questionnaire, we just give people a self-focus scale, nothing happens. So basically all this choice mindset work. I give people a questionnaire with lots of items, no effect. Only effects are on behavior. So here, we did this choice mindset manipulation you saw before. What did you do yesterday versus what choices you made yesterday? To measure self-focus, use this task from past research where participants are just asked, please draw a diagram of your social network. So you place yourself in somewhere. You list all your friends, family members, and you kind of draw different circles, and you say who is connected to whom. And the old finding was that Japanese people draw graphs like this. Like the self is very small, then the friends and family members are big, right? So they are like this. Japan has this cultural syndrome of like self-effacement, right? You don't try to emphasize yourself. In America, it's the opposite, right? The cultural syndrome is of self-enhancement. So you or I am very big, और बाकी सब छोटे हैं मुझसे. But again, कुछ explicitly कुछ नहीं बोला. People are just drawing a diagram, and then we are inferring it. Key question was, just simply recalling your choices change people's self-conceptions in that task. So in the control condition with Singaporeans, we find like they're kind of like just in between. Size of the self circle and size of the friend is nearly the same, right? Neither self-enhancement nor self-effacement. After we asked Singaporeans, like, tell me some choices you made yesterday, they become like Americans. उसका self बड़ा हो गया, बाकी लोग छोटे हो गए. So this was striking, right? That we could get a effect of this very subtle manipulation on this actual behavior, right? They're drawing these diagrams and kind of this changing the self-views. So I'm like, okay, this is fascinating. How does it affect people's interpersonal decisions? So again, if choice mindset makes you more self-focused, then you kind of emphasize personal responsibility rather than social responsibility. So to test this out, we got students in the lab, and we did what's like a modified dictator game, I would call it. So we told people, you'll be put in groups of 3. In each group, one person will be the decider, kind of the leader. 2 people will be the receivers or followers. Now that allocation is made randomly. So to choose that thing, you have to decide. First, you tell us, what color do you want to associate with the decider role? Then the other color will be associated with the receiver role. So nothing, right? Students are just choosing a color. In the control condition, instead of please choose, it's the computer will choose. That's it. So you don't make any choices. And then in both conditions, we said, okay, now the computer will take 1 ball associated with the decider role, 2 balls associated with the receiver role, put it in a box, and then randomly pick a color, and that color will decide your role in the game. So essentially, the final choice, what role you are assigned to, is completely random, because the computer is deciding. So the choice participants made is useless. But now, thing is, we don't really care about receivers because they don't make any decisions. So what we did is we kind of told all participants, you are the decider. So we kind of get more useful data. And so this is the game that they had to play. So they were given a choice, right? Okay, so you prefer which of these 2 options you prefer? So in one option, you get 500 points, but the 2 receivers will get 200 points. So which means that the total pot of money is 900 points. In the second options, you get a little less, others get a little more, but the total pot of money is higher, right? Now it's 1,000 points in the second option. So the second option is the socially responsible option, like you are increasing welfare of the collective. The first option is the more kind of self-interested option. You are doing what's better for yourself. And kind of other choices like this. So the key question is just making that one choice about the color of the ball. Can it change your allocations in this task? So in the control condition, about 60% of the times participant chose the selfish option, that's better for themselves, 40% what's best for the group. The choice condition has jumped to 90%. Only 10% of the time people chose what's good for the group. So it's basically people say, oh, I chose blue color, then the computer chose blue color. So basically मैंने सही choice की, right? तो अभी ठीक है, अभी मैंने अच्छी choice की, तुम लोगों ने खराब choice की, तो फिर मेरे को जो फायदा लेना है मैं लूँगा मेरी choice की. और ये effect size, बाकी सब actually studies में effect size like around 0.3, 0.4, right? इधर तो 1.4. मैंने मेरे postdoc को बोला कुछ गड़बड़ है data analysis में, किसी को हो ही नहीं सकता, मगर reanalyze करो scratch से. उसने reanalyze किया, बोले exact same number. कोई विश्वास नहीं करेगा. Pre-registered application करते हैं. So we did a pre-registration, exact same procedure, identical. अभी 60% की जगह बस in control condition 66% of the time people chose selfish option. Choice condition instead of 90% it was 88. Oh wait, but still effect size is very big. Not as big as 1.44 but 0.8. It's still massive for such a subtle manipulation. So basically, making even one choice, if you think it's a meaningful choice, can reduce social responsibility. So let me just show you another, one more experiment in this
It
slide.
also impacts self-responsibility. In a
Like as in?
negative way. If I have more and more choices, then I might not be more and more disciplined, or I might not be more and more persevere for a particular task.
Actually, opposite, no? The earlier.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
no.
was thinking on the same line in the sense of when we're talking about how choice can be the control regulation. Because if somebody has many choices, and suppose they want, like the concept of maybe openness might influence it, like if somebody wants to try all the choices, so then the control regulation might not be the same. And in terms of time management, like if somebody has so many choices, the choice mindset, then you might also be confused and you might take more time to choose, so then the time management
Yeah.
can also be in the opposite direction.
Yeah, so to your point, actually self-responsibility, we find out the time management study shows it's the opposite. Actually, you're better at self-regulation. So when it doesn't involve others, choice mindset is positive. When, of course, when there's a tension between self and others, then you focus on the self, less on others. So now your question, right, it's about, you're talking about like the number of options available. So actually you find that choice mindset, people are more decisive. So actually they explore more options. Right? So they don't like, oh, सामने दो बिस्किट है, चलो इनमें से एक खा लो. नहीं, और कोई बिस्किट available है क्या? Right? So जैसे मेरे सामने एक ही बिस्किट है, right? So if I'm in a choice mindset, I'd actually go there and pick that one. So I explore more options, but then also people have a easier time making decisions because your kind of choice, your schema of preferences and likes and dislikes is more salient. So you don't have a harder time making decisions.
Then it must be negatively related with achievement motivation.
See, achievement motivation is again very like domain specific, right? This is all kind of very domain general, very everyday mundane stuff. तो रोजमर्रा चीजों में काम करता है.
If we talk about decision schema, so whatever you said, maybe there's a core and peripheral aspects of the schema also to change.
Possibly. Yeah, right. Yeah. So some people might have like a decision schema, say about like appearance, right? So what clothes I wear and makeup and hair and so on, right? But then maybe over time, like maybe about academics is peripheral. But then maybe when you come to college, you're doing a PhD, then maybe that switches.
So because in a schema of making decisions, there will be a component of emotions also.
Yes.
Because there's always this tie-up between feeling and thinking. And so that component might make the peripheral aspects at least changeable and maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, right? So the only trouble here is it's very kind of I haven't found a good way to extract people's schemas. Like I found a way to manipulate it, but it was like a hard time to study people's naturally existing schemas because I tried to analyze these open-ended responses, what choices they list, like very mundane, right? Oh, मैंने omelette खाया नाश्ते में, या मैंने toast खाया नाश्ते में, right? तो उसका फिर करोगे क्या? हाँ, ये थोड़ा अलग है, exactly.
High level of
yeah.
So maybe other components also have to be.
Yeah. So I just had a hard time extracting that information. So I went found a good method. Right? If you have some ideas, I'd be very grateful.
I think some work, I remember correctly now, some work has been done in the area of stereo.
Okay. Yeah, right. So which are these more central traits versus peripheral traits? Yeah, but stereotyping, right? There's a clear target. Now here,
it's very different.
Yeah, right. Here now, what's the target, right? And but yeah, it's kind of like that's the upcoming challenge in next phase of research.
And one more thing I was thinking, we talk about making choices. So what do we say? It is the processing that is involved. Is it automatic. You just make a choice
Huh.
because there's a choice situation. Or it is something else, automatic or let's say control.
Yeah, so I think like just the everyday mundane choices, like yeah, say what biscuit to have, probably automatic, right? Of course, more important choices like where to study for college is clearly controlled. But I think what the choice mindset is doing is making the more automatic choices into a more controlled choice, right? So I'm actually thinking, wait, am I hungry or not? Rather than just automatically eating the biscuit because it's in front of me. Right, so I think that's kind of what's at least in the time management studies, I think that's what's happening. The automatic part is coming to the surface of consciousness.
Like, if I take a practical example of, so if I'm online shopping,
Huh.
and if I'm planning to buy, suppose, shoes or something, so if I have a choice mindset, wouldn't I spend much more time on all the
Probably.
different choices?
Yeah, probably.
So then wouldn't that lead to, like, wouldn't it be opposite to the time management?
Yeah, so not really, right? So if your goal at the moment is to buy the best set of shoes available, right?
To
So,
add to
yeah.
this, many a times, especially online shopping, you might look for many things and you may save things in the cart. And so because you want to enhance choices,
Kind of multiple step process, right?
perhaps.
Yes, actually, so so I think people would spend more time. But the thing is, your goal, if your goal is just buy a pair, your shoes broke, right? I just need a new pair of shoes, and I have like so much work to do. Yeah, then spending like 2 hours on the shopping website is not ideal, right? But if your goal is like how to find the best set of shoes available, then yeah, makes sense. Spending more time is actually consistent with your goal. And yeah, and I think the two-step process, right, by when you're like saving options in cart, it's maybe like out of 100 picking one is hard, right? But out of 100 I narrow to 10, then I narrow to 5, and then I pick one. Then it's easier. So it's kind of breaking down the one choice into like multi-step process.
So again, it
Yeah.
really boils down to domain specificity.
Because here depends on how much you care about shoes versus, right? So some people is like, ठीक दिख रहा है चलो ले लो बात खत्म हुई.
So, do you mean like, so choices that we gave is because the system allows these choices, right? So if a system that doesn't allow choices, does it mean that in that system people are less responsible? Like in political system, these are choices based upon the economic system. So some country follows a different type of economic system, China and North Korea. So can we generalize that the people in that system are less social responsible?
How this?
Wait, let me answer this question first. Huh?
Actually, it is a-
Oh, Ajahn.
So I have a related question. For example, you were talking about scoring mindset, choice mindset, for example. So how does this contribute to social and economic behavior of the state?
Ah.
So it is an
Yeah. So you see your question, right? It's hard to. This thing is across countries, right? Then there are kind of too many things are different. Right? Like say China, North Korea. Like yeah, China you can't make zero political choice, but they have a lot of consumer choice. They're rich. Like I've been to China. They're really rich. It's surprising the amount of money flowing in China. So yeah. So the thing is, it's again domain specific, right? Political choice. Probably they have zero choice mindset in political domain, but they have like development.
Economic factor of a country. Suppose like purely capitalistic state, we used to have a lot of choices earlier. So the more we are moving to a monopolistic state, like we don't have choices for Google, they are monopolists. We later and later we are moving towards a monopoly driven economy.
No, the thing is still, like say on Google, but you can search for, yeah, you have, what do you say, I'm not, by the way, my interest is not in actual options. That was the old research. 100 people have studied. My goal is, if there is like, there are 100 papers on a topic, do not study it. You'll probably study to death, right? So my goal is, forget, irrespective of the objective option. Some domains you have more, like sometimes you have less, there's like a lot of complexity. I can't do anything about it. My question is, hold the state of the world constant. Just putting on a lens of choice, does it change your behavior?
But if a state has an effect, if a culture has effect in a mindset, and if a culture propagates that you should have choice, should have this choice mindset, because that is the choice, freedom of choice, that is which we see in America, which might not be very, might be different in Europe. You study between Europeans and Americans. There might some difference in that.
Yeah, possibly. But again, these are questions, right? It's there's no clear answer, right? Are we moving towards? We're moving towards. There's more monopoly in many industries, but then there's also increasing consumer choices with economic development, right? Like many more options available to us now than were available 15 years ago, right? So now, how do these balance out? More like a sociological question, not a psychological question, right? So I'm kind of, as you can see, I'm very much experimental social psychologist, right? I'm not sociologist, not anthropologist, not an economist. I use economic methods, but again, it's for lab studies. But again, that's how, at least I think, I want to maybe my program of research, I want to keep it narrow enough that I have a very strong handle on it. I don't have a handle on Google and Marketplace, so I kind of leave it out.
Sorry,
Yeah.
so having a choice mindset may reduce the social responsibility. Have you also looked at the opposite effect that when people have the goal that they need to increase the social responsibility aspect in their life, then they are consciously reducing their choices? For example,
Yeah, good point.
people who are minimalists,
Huh.
right? Or people
Yeah, good
who
point.
are ethically shopping, people who want cruelty-free products,
Yeah.
or people who do not want kind of a fashion, kind of a wardrobe that does not emerge
Yeah.
from sweatshops.
Yes.
So in that case, the choices will be reduced.
Yes, exactly.
So that will have some different kind of effect.
Yeah, no, I think that what you said is right, right? You want to be socially responsible, then you have fewer options. And I think maybe one part is like people have a disconnect, they don't really see this link. People say, oh, I want to be socially responsible, but I also want the cheapest product, right? They kind of don't realize, well, no, there's a tension, right? And like I have one of my nephews is kind of very left-wing, very progressive, but then also shopaholic. These two go together. And then he's like, no, but there's no difference. I don't buy leather, but still, just kind of rampant consumerism is not left wing. It's not consistent with like liberal values about kind of reducing consumption. But yes, I guess that's as there's greater discourse about the negative societal effects of consumption.
I got this idea from a book I read. It's Kelly McGonigal's Willpower is.
Actually, I worked with. She's my friend.
Okay. So the idea that I got from the book is, if you have too many choices, if you have too many decisions to take in a day, then at the end of the day, the energy, the cognitive energy, the ability to take or make good decisions will be depleted.
Yeah.
So that is the idea that I get from this presentation. If we have more choices, we'll be more confused, we'll be taking more time, and decision making would be hard.
Okay, so actually the choice mindset is the solution to that. You don't have a choice mindset, right? Then you are faced with 20 decisions. You are exhausted. But you have a choice mindset, right? You're very clear. Let's do this choice, right? What are the relevant factors, right? What are my goals at the moment, right? And then you can very quickly, efficiently make choices, and you're not depleted.
It's more of a trait.
No, it's not a trade. You can manipulate it and you can acquire it, right? Like the field experiment over 6-5 weeks. You kind of think about it constantly. You kind of get into the mode. So it's a learnable mindset. It's a learnable mindset, right? It's not a fixed state. And that's the way to go, right? Our world is going to put more and more choices to us, right? And more times there's no one to ask, no one to seek advice. You have to make your own decision. And so having a choice mindset is beneficial, but of course it has these negative effects in social responsibility. So what we want to do is maybe we want to focus on have a choice mindset about making responsible choices, right?
Okay, maybe we can
Shall
get
we-
back to the
I have a comment to it.
Ha ha ha.
In the first experiment, you gave a choice of paper of different colors, or say a pen of different colors, right? What if there were papers of the same color, or pens of the same color? So 5 pens
Yeah.
had 5 different colors. So I might have an instinctive preference for a specific color. So if all
all 5 pens were of the same color, would that have affected the result?
Yeah, good point. So actually the cubicles were identical. I mean, maybe some location difference, but otherwise identical, right? So even in cubicles we saw a difference. I guess,
Cubicles were different, papers, if cubicles were same, then say papers are also identical, pens are also identical.
Yeah, so I think with paper probably then nobody would say it's a choice, right? Because if they're identical, I guess pens,
The position.
like one top, one below.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Someone can say I signed the paper that was below, not the one at the top, right? With pen, you can say I chose the one that is closer or left or right.
I see that this kind of experiment can be even extrapolated to situations in a political system. Where, say, if I pitch in a candidate from, say, scheduled tribe, for example, Indian Constitution, all my rivals will start searching for candidates from the same scheduled tribe. So it's again, I'm trying to maintain uniformity so that choice making becomes difficult for them.
Yeah, the party.
The party.
But that's a
That's a
very
good point.
intelligent way of doing it,
Yeah.
which may not happen in the real and there may not
See, political parties, they look at the demography of the constituency and then they declare that fine, this is a reserved constituency. Right? So there is a fixed choice there. So you cannot pitch in any candidate. But constituencies which are not fixed, there also if you know that the say dominance is between 3 of us, party X, Y and Z, if I pitch in a candidate from a specific religion or unity, suddenly your choices starts getting affected. So it's like say all 5 pencils are of the same color, all candidates are of the same
but
socioeconomic
there are
background.
innumerable external factors, extraneous factors in political choice.
This can be a good experiment.
Expanded to important choices rather than trivial choices. But yeah, as you said, then it gets more complicated. The more you get into important choices, then the many more relevant factors.
It's again like social responsibility. As a social psychologist, when we look at making decisions about relationships or in relationships, so their social responsibility becomes of paramount importance, but maybe not for some people. So basically, I was thinking about the underlying question of or the factor of individual differences. So is it culture or it is the factor of individual differences in
Yeah.
a culture?
It's kind of like a in between. So I've developed a choice scale. The test retest reliability is about 0.5. So it's low. Personality traits are much higher, but it's not like just like emotions or would be like much lower. So it's kind of in between trait and state. So it's cultural, it's temporary, but then also some people are in chronic choice mindset, others are not.
I think we may continue.
Acha. Okay. So then for this social responsibility, right? Moving ahead, I thought like maybe the Dictator game earlier, it's kind of very simple, very bare bones, and not realistic, right? In real life, how often do you get money and divide between people, right? So like let's look at a more realistic context. So this is actually like the ethical choices that you said, right? So regular coffee versus fair trade coffee, or fair trade, basically something produced with more ethical means. So of course it tastes the same, but the fair trade version is more expensive, right? And now you have to decide, do I pay extra to be more ethical? And so now of course doing with actual consumer choices is a little difficult because people have different preferences and so on. So we said, okay, how about we have like again a lab experiment where this was with experimental markets. So we had 30 different markets of 7 participants each, so 200 total. And then in each market, there were 3 sellers, 2 buyers, and 2 third parties. And we got like a whole bunch of data from these. And so here's how it went. Initially, we said, okay, some of you will get like, you'll be rich, some of you will be like middle class, so you'll either get 50 points or 100 points. And to determine whether you get which 50 or 100 points, choose a color in the choice condition. In the control condition, they don't make any choice, the computer chooses. and then the computer kind of randomly picks a color and they get either 50 or 100 points. Then we saw, okay, so there'll be 16 rounds of this game, and in each round, sellers decide, the 3 sellers, whether to produce like a dirty product, so which is cheaper to produce, but if it is transacted, then it imposes a cost on the third party, right? Say like I have a polluting factory, right? Then I use the factory to produce something, then the people living near the factory suffer from the pollution. Or you can produce a clean product which costs 10 points to produce, but it does not impose any cost. And this asymmetry is actually common. So the benefits to companies from unethical practices is just a little bit. The cost to society is much more. And like in normal life, sellers decided what price to set for their products. It's like free market, they decide what price to set. And then after that, buyers are shown these are the options available. This is what the sellers are selling. So dirty product for this price, clean product for that price. Do you want to buy any of it? If they say yes, then kind of the money is deducted from their earnings. But then the benefit from consumption is the same, right? You drink normal chai or fair trade chai, your happiness from the cup of tea is no different, no? So buyers got like a fixed benefit of 50 points from purchasing a product. And basically these third parties was tied to one buyer, one person tied to one buyer, the other person tied to another buyer. So if that buyer purchased like a dirty product, then that person sitting next to them got a loss. And so this, we made it very real. Like in real life, you don't know कि कोई polluted factory से किसको तकलीफ पड़ रही है, क्या पता, right? कहीं किधर है. Either in the very room, another student like you. So we kind of make, in a way, reducing chances of socially irresponsible behavior by this design. So the key outcome variable is not an individual level variable. It's like a market outcome, right? कि buyers ने क्या बनाया, sellers ने क्या खरीदा, दोनों के ऊपर निर्भर है. So what is the market share of the clean product? So in the control condition, it was about like 37%. So 63% of the times people bought dirty product, which was cheaper. 37% of the time they bought the clean product. In the choice condition, this is dropped further to 25%. So basically, people just make like one irrelevant choice at the beginning. The socially responsible behavior decreases by a third. So again, kind of replicating the previous Dictator game study. And then, you look at, okay, so, choice condition, like these more dirty products are transacted, they're cheaper. So let's see how much actual benefit buyers and sellers received. So this is the total profit at the end of 16 rounds. Buyers made a little more, not much, not significant difference. Sellers, nothing. But third parties, there was a significant decline. They made a loss. And it's kind of, I think, mirrors, right? In real life, for our companies to use socially responsible practices, like, to treat their employees well, to treat the farmers well, to have better factories, actually the net cost is not very much to consumers and to companies. But then the benefit to society would be much more, right? And it's this kind of showing the same pattern of results. We have a little more time? We're nearly done. 12:30 was the end time. Huh? Oh, you didn't decide. Oh, acha. ठीक है. So, okay, so let me just continue. So, to kind of look at it on a different angle, right? The same general idea, thought of, like public goods, right? Actually, India has a major problem with public goods. Like clean air is a public good. we don't have or like good roads, right? Or good quality public education. All of these are public goods because they benefit everyone. Like clean air, right? This clean air, nobody can prohibit me from breathing that air. And because it's so say I buy a car that has a lower emission, or like, I'm a company and I build a factory that has lower emission. It's kind of the benefit from that kind of is distributed to everyone, but then the costs are imposed on the individual. So therefore, for this reason, basically, individuals are not a good source for providing public goods, right? Nobody has incentives to build roads. You need a government to kind of take in, pool in resources and then convert that into public goods, and then society as a whole benefits. And I was thinking, right, like, is this sense of choice, what role does it have to play in how public goods are kind of created in society? And the idea was that if you see behavior through a lens of choice, like especially others' behaviors and your own, in the case of public goods, right, it's kind of an equalizing force. Right? Like normally, say rich people, like, oh, now we put like nice air conditioner and we're all very comfortable, right? But then like people working outside in the heat and the pollution are suffering. Okay? So the question is, if people are thinking about like, oh, are some people rich and others poor? Is it because of the choices that they made? Then maybe they are less likely to support public goods because they feel that inequality is justified. But if you think that, well, some people are rich, some people are poor, kind of because of bad luck and good luck, then maybe you're more likely to feel that inequality is unjustified. And that might shape how people decide to contribute to public goods. Right? That if you think inequality is justified, then you are less likely to, especially rich people would be less likely to contribute to public goods. I think this is a major problem in India because of like tax collection, right? Like most of the very rich industrialists and business people like don't pay taxes. It's just salaried people like us who pay taxes. So here we got again participants, we put them in groups of 3. Then in each group, one person was rich, they had 100 points, 2 people were poor, 20 points, 2 people were poor, they had 10 points. Same manipulation what you saw before, choose the color of the ball, computer will choose. And then they played a public goods game over many rounds. So in every round, each person decides, okay, of the points I have, like 10 or 20 points, how much points do I want to contribute to the public good? Then that is accumulated and increased by 55%. Because like you have good roads, you have clean air, everyone benefits. And then but thing is, everyone benefits equally. So that the pot of the public goods are evenly divided among all participants. Now the thing is, normally if you just continue normal public goods game, there is kind of cooperation declines, right? So first round, like some people cooperate, but someone doesn't cooperate, doesn't contribute. Then the person who contributed is upset, oh, तुमने पैसा नहीं दिया, अभी अगली बार मैं पैसा नहीं दूंगा. Then very quickly nobody contributes. So but the one way to sustain contribution is to punish under contributors, right? So people can assign punishment points. Which is like, if I give you like 5 punishment points, then your earnings are reduced by 50%, but it's costly. Even my earnings are reduced by 15%. So you can just go around punishing everyone, right? Because you will bear a personal cost to yourself. And then they played like 10 rounds within the same group. So here are the results. So now we had 2 different conditions. This is poor participants who only got like 10 points in the game. But we find across choice condition, control condition, there's no difference. They're contributing about like 70%, 80%, 70% of their money to the public goods. But when it came to the rich participants, those who had 20 points, so first like they're contributing more over successive rounds, right? So initially actually they're quite less. So they're twice as much money as the poor people. They're contributing about the same. So which is clearly like they're being selfish, right? They're like, oh, chalo फायदा ले लेना है, पर मेरे को देना नहीं है society को. But then they contribute more probably because they got punished more over time, right? People लोगों ने बोला क्या तुम्हारे पास double है और तुम मेरा जितना पैसा दे रहे हो. So then they punish them. But in the choice condition, it would be like one choice at the very beginning, like overall consistently lower contribution across all rounds. So people are, they're contributing more over time, but then overall they're contributing less. And one way to look at this is kind of like regressive contributions. This is where the middle class people are paying more taxes than the rich people, right? Which is kind of what's happening here. In the control condition, there's very few rounds where there were regressive taxation, where the poor people paid more than the rich people. in the choice condition, this jumped to around 50%. So in about half the rounds, there were regressive contributions. Rich people pay less or equal than the poor people. And of course, so this is happening. For this to happen, basically in the choice condition, poor people accepted the inequality. They said that like, no, the inequality is justified. And so which means they must punish the rich people less for under contributing. So here is basically the under contribution by rich people, extent of under contribution. So in the control condition, what we see is like when there is very high under contribution, right? Like rich people didn't contribute anything, poor people contribute like 10 points, poor people punish them. But in the choice condition, poor people were not punishing the rich people to the same extent. So basically even poor people accepted the inequality. कि नहीं ठीक है, चलो माँ बाप आपने बहुत अच्छे से मेहनत करके आप लोग रिच हुए, अभी रहने तो रखो अपना पैसा. But that was constant across both conditions, right? That wasn't a variable. Yeah. But it's the same in both conditions. Even in the control condition it impacts, but they're still punishing, no? That's why. So actually this is, the time is up. Right? Yeah, exactly, and I think I'm also done. So kind of I call it the...
You must be tired.
No, just they call it the paradox of the choice mindset, right? You have like a lot of positive benefits for the individual, but then you end up with negative effects for society. Hey, by the way, my afternoon schedule is all free, so if you want to talk about like, talk about this research, some of your own research.
So Savani will be visiting the lab. So you're having
Yeah, and also if you want like maybe some feedback on your research like later on in the afternoon, like just let me know. I don't have anything planned after the lab visit. So thank you all. Really enjoyed presenting to you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Right, so we close the session for the day. And in case you are interested for the further interaction, we are right now moving to labs.